Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cosmic Artist with Thea. We're doing another month overview. This time it's for March 2025. I find it crazy to say that. I cannot believe we are in 2025, even though we are already pretty much 3 months in. Well, two at this point. We're recording this before the Pisces new moon. So actually, we're still feeling into pretty Piscean energy, even though we're going to be talking about a little bit of fire, which will be coming back to water anyway, but we're going to do a different approach today. Before that, how are you? How was February for you? And what are three things you're looking forward to in March, or three words you're looking forward to in March?
First off, thanks for having me again for March, for Cosmic Artist, for March. And February was quite busy. February was a lot of it was quite busy for me, but I loved it. I mean, February, love month. You also had your Galentine's and you had your book launch. I'm so happy. Um, yeah, February was quite productive. I really used the time to get myself in alignment. Like I listened to our February podcast again, like our February episode, and I was like, really like, let me take some of our medicine and really practice what we preach. So that's what I did for February. Three things that I'm looking forward to for March. Um, Goodness gracious, the dynamic energy. That I like to admit that I am getting ready to not know and trust as much as we are being aware of what the astrology is going to look like. I feel like there's a big practice um, of not knowing and yet trusting. So I'm looking forward to not knowing and trusting. Those are two things in February. But yeah, I'm also looking forward to the dynamic energy that's in store. How about you?
I am looking forward to, I want to say, more aligned action.
Mm.
February was great. As Thea said, I launched my book. I can't believe I did. So if you're looking, or if you'd like to read it, if you'd like to steep yourself in some poetry, it's on Amazon. It's called Pieces of My Heart. You will have to search my name, Karina Sigaldas Ganglani, because I realized that a lot of people have books called Pieces of My Heart. So I
Mm.
should have used the parenthesis with my heart, but I also wanted to make it easier to access. And I felt like the parenthesis would take away from that. Anyway, if you're interested, you can find it on Amazon or you can find it in the link in my bio. So for me, February was big. This is a project that I've been working on for a while. And I think it was last February that I properly set the intention that I wanted to publish with a class that Chelsea did about self-publishing. So I was like, I'm going to self-publish. And it just so happened that it was exactly 1 year after. Um, so I think February was just really, I'm feeling, you know how we've been talking about how we're entering this year with completions. I have been feeling those completions actually, coming to fruition. And so for March, I'm really excited for more new beginnings, but maybe not so
Mm.
new. Instead, beginnings that have been initiated like quite a while back, but never really have gotten to see the light of day. I
Mm.
think that's some of the energy that's going to be coming our way.
Mm-hmm. 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 I agree with you. So I'm so excited to dive deeper on March because I feel like um and I think we say this every time, we say this every month, but I really feel like after March, we don't know if things are going to be the same. Like it's such a dynamic energy where we're starting a new cycle. We're starting a new era and a new turning by the end of by the end of the month, and it's bookended by a retrograde and a turning. So um I don't know, like I'm excited. I'm excited to also hear your insights.
Hmm. All right, well, let's get into it. We're gonna go week by week. We'll start with the first week. And the first week, I mean, the first day starts on a Saturday. So we'll start on that Sunday and go through the first whole week, and then we'll move to the next week. So happening on the first week, and we can go deeper into any that you feel is important. Happening on the first week, on the second, we have Venus stationing retrograde in Aries at 10 degrees and 50 minutes. On the same day, Mercury is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. And Venus retrograde is going to be from March 2nd until April 13th. Venus is going to inch all the way back into Pisces. So we're going to feel this Aries energy, and then we're going to feel this Pisces energy. That's happening on the second. On the next day, the third, Mercury is going to meet up with Neptune, and then Mercury is going to shift into Aries
Mm.
to be where Venus already is. Um, and in Aries, Mercury is going to station retrograde, but we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we can start with this. These are the biggest things happening throughout the first week of the month. So, what do you have to share? What do you want to say about maybe we start with Venus and Aries? What is the energy of that?
Okay. This is bold self-love, right? Like Venus teaches us how we magnetize, how we attract, how we understand love, how we love, how we relate with love. It's a relationship with ourselves. It's a relationship with money, finances, our self-worth, and our value. And Aries, as the first spark, has a lot to do with this initiating, bold, courageous energy. It likes to move things, it likes to initiate things, it likes to take action. And I always say this, Aries is about I am, our identity. It's the first spark. It's the first light of awareness, literally after the womb, the primordial void, which is Pisces. And we have this moving from Aries to Pisces, Pisces to Aries. So there's literally a movement from the void to the first spark and then going back to the void is what's coming to me. And so with Venus retrograding in Aries, um, I'm trying to level myself and my body and my excitement because you know me, I'm a Venus priestess, I'm a rose priestess, and there's so many things that I can say about this Venus and Aries cycle. But suffice to say, this is about rekindling our healthy self love and our fierce self-worth, like our value for our self-worth. And like, what is it for you? How are, let's reframe fighting, like how are we standing up for our bold self-worth, and how are we taking inspired action towards actually being the first responder for our needs, for our love language? How are we being our lover first without outsourcing it to the other, right? The opposite of Aries is Libra, and we are just completing an Aries and Libra nodal cycle. We're still going to have an Aries solar eclipse by the fourth week of this month. So we're still wrapping up that energy of outsourcing love and also insourcing love. So another question is, what was happening for you 8 years ago? So what is it now? 2025 minus 8. Where are we? 20 um 2018, what was happening for you in 2017 and 2018? Because how Venus operates is she completes the star, like this Venus pentagram in the sky, every 8 years. And every 8 years she begins a journey or she restarts the journey. So we had the last time that Venus was in Aries retrograde was 2017, 2018. What was coming up for you? The same themes may be coming up for you again this cycle, also 4 years ago. Like, what was happening to you 4 years ago when Venus retrograded on the opposite sign? And backtrack to 2009. What was happening to you March, April 2009? Like, can you reflect? Are similar themes coming up for you to be revisited? Because what's potent this time around is we have so many conjunctions with the North Node, which is where we're all supposed to be going, like the higher invitation of our evolutionary journey as a humanity. And we have Saturn there, we have Neptune there, and Neptune is closing a cycle there. So this is the year, this is the month, this is the Venus retrograde of like just karmic book endings. like just karmic reclamations of where we may be stuck in a loop of attachment styles, of karmic stories, of limiting beliefs around our self worth and our value. This is the time for us to take bold, courageous moves to initiate sustainable change. And that's a lot. What is coming up for you?
Yeah, those were a lot of big words that you gave us to digest. And as you were saying it, I was looking at the way I've mapped out all the transits happening this month. And yeah, it's just a lot of Venus, Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, and nodes.
Mm-hmm.
And those are big. Those are all really big points. You know, Saturn holds such big weight of accountability and discipline and showing up to do our work. Neptune
Mm-hmm.
holds such big, such big dreams and such big potential, but also such big distraction and such big illusion.
Mm-hmm.
And the North Node holds such big potential, but also such big fear because we've never seen it. Like, how can we
Mm-hmm.
not be afraid of it if we've never seen it or never experienced it? But at the same time, it's in Pisces asking us to just like just surrender to it, right? Just like we really don't know. We really don't know anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you're saying, we're moving from this fire to water, water to fire, and it's just this. I wrote something a long, long time ago, 2019. Is that a long, long time ago? I said, it's not a game of the mind, it's a dance of the heart.
Mm.
And that's kind of what this feels like. Like there's a lot of mind games that can come to play. There's a lot of like combative, reactions that can come to play, especially with Aries involved, especially when we're not standing up for ourselves, because then our
Mm-hmm.
boundaries are going to be crossed. And when our
Mm-hmm.
boundaries are crossed, we're going to get frustrated because we're feeling it. You know, Pisces kind of gets irritated. I'm thinking of Pisces as an evolved Cancer. So instead of like, clawing at you, you'll just get radio silence,
Mm-hmm.
And but that's so sad because with Pisces, there is also the potential of being so intuitively felt, like seen and healed on such a deep level.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the energetics already at the beginning of the month were being shown the importance of being fierce about
Mm-hmm.
what we need, being clear about what our boundaries are, being smart about the way that we're communicating with ourselves, about the words that we're using, as you reminded me so, so kindly before we started recording this, especially with Mercury. Mercury is listening and Mercury is in Aries, and Aries is the beginning. And yes, this is just a glimpse because Mercury is gonna, retrograde back into Pisces, but it's a seed point. It's the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the entire zodiac. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're thinking right now, I feel like has the potential to blossom in such beautiful ways if we're being intentional about what we're thinking. I feel like the word of 2025 is intention, just because
Intention.
it really has to start with that, right? And if
Yeah.
if we start with something, we were talking about a bunch of stuff before this episode, which is my inspiration for everything I'm going to be saying, but it's like if we start something with intention, um the chances are very low for it to turn out in a way that's unfavorable
Mm.
because
Mm.
you started it with the right intention. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
when you start something that's a little more like, I will just see what happens, then the way it unfolds also kind of ends up being like, we'll just see how you're going to react instead of like unfolding in a way that feels productive, in a way that feels good, in a way that feels intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you 100%. And, as these planets enter Aries, they sextile Pluto in Aquarius. And so part of being intentional, let me rephrase that. The transformative power of being intentional is everything. And with the big movements into Aries, Pluto is right there in Aquarius. waiting for us to tap into this spark, this bold courage, this intentionality, because Pluto in Aquarius is here inviting us to not only transform ourselves but also transform everything in a collective level. Because with everything moving into Aries, this is, I'm not sure if I shared this here before, but this is where democracy was built. Like Saturn and Neptune conjoining in Aries was when democracy was built. The last time that Neptune was in Aries was around the 1800s, but the end of the Civil War. This was when people were taking bold action because they believed in such bold ideals and they wanted to see that take root. And I feel like we are sensing this as a humanity, as a community, wherever we are in the world, we are feeling some sense of revolutionary energy. And we just need to start taking accountability, responsibility, leadership to initiate that change. Starting within, like, what are our values? How do we think? How do we communicate what we think? What are our intentions? What are we actually doing about our intentions? It starts there and it just ripples out, which is such a Piscean energy, where we're all part of this ocean of oneness. We're all part of this big humanity of this earth school, and we are not separate. Like, this is the big Pisces lesson. We are not separate from each other, although Aries is reminding us that yes, we are all interconnected, but we are responsible for our own individuation. And I think individuation is a big term, but individuation just means being responsible for how we are being an individual contributor to the wholeness of it.
So, what I want to tell you, which you definitely already know, and which is very fascinating, is that Pallas Athena is right beside Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius, which I find so interesting. And I just want to read from this book for everyone listening, thinking, who is Pallas Athena? Pallas Athena is an asteroid, and basically the goddess of wisdom and justice and the patroness of arts and protectress of the state. So there is a lot of justice and fairness and what's right and what feels fair for the people, fair for each person. You know, it's revolutionary. We're seeing it. Obviously, we're seeing it. And how powerful is it to have, this force of a woman that we know as Athena, right beside Pluto, the god of the underworld. Like, mm, that just feels like next level magic. And also, I love actually that it's Venus and Mercury are dipping into Aries and having us, run fast and then having us stop and
Mm-hmm.
feel, wait, but is it energetically aligned?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I do want to lead. Yes, I do want to, empower everyone. Yes, I do want to um be fierce about everything that I show up with, but it moves backward and it's like, wait, but in what way does it feel good? But in what way does it feel peaceful? But in what way does my body feel like it belongs here? Because like you said, like we're all, everything is one, but
Mm-hmm.
also the way that we play out our one kind of dictates how everything else plays out in the whole as well. Um,
Absolutely.
which is just magic. I mean, which is just magic. Because then we realize, like, yes, we are just one human, but also we are one human, right?
Right.
And once we start realizing that, we know that what we do and what we say has an effect on planet Earth.
Right. Right.
So that's the energetics of the first few
Days.
days or the first week of the month. Maybe we can head into the second week, which is a pretty big week. On the 12th, we have Sun conjunct Saturn at 22 degrees of Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Mercury conjunct Venus retrograde at 8 degrees, 47 minutes of Aries. And then on the 14th, we have the lunar eclipse in Virgo, our first one in Virgo, huh?
Mm-hmm.
At 23 degrees and 58 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the 15th, we have Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries, 9 degrees and 35 minutes. So Mercury retrograde lasts from March 15 all the way until April 7. And Mercury stations direct again in Pisces at
Mm,
26 degrees. So Venus will be moving all the way back to about 24, whereas Mercury will be moving all the way back into 26.
okay. So, gosh, it's it's fascinating how March is actually equinox month. And when we say equinox, it's we think like, oh my gosh, it's the seasonal new year. It's a new beginning. It's the rebirth of the light. It's we're actually where it's a time where we're being asked to fully take ownership of our light, and it's go-getter energy because it's Aries. But then here we are with all these planets moving from Aries into Pisces, and it's retrograde. Our personal planets, Mercury, our lower mind, and Venus, our lower heart, are retrograding. So, and then we have a lunar eclipse. Ha! And a lunar eclipse, as if that's a south node eclipse, we have the south node in Libra. That's a lot of releasing. That's a lot of energetic clearing, because whenever we have a lunar eclipse, or rather whenever we have an eclipse with the south node, it has a lot to do with discharging the past. It's karmic clearing, it's releasing, it's dissolving. And with Virgo and Virgo's ruler Mercury retrograding or slowing down, here we are already being asked to be intentional and be so spiritually and creatively responsible for our long-term visions. And how are we actually moving in coherence, right? That was so beautiful what you said, where our heart and our how we are allowing our minds and our hearts to align. And how are we moving in coherence, like is how our minds and our thoughts, are the way we communicate, the way we act, how is that in coherence? And how can we actually start releasing for real the habits, the delusions, the structures that do not support us grounding those long-term visions? Like I started where we started with this is the month to get really clear. What are your intentions? What are your goals? What are how do you want your life to be? Like, who are you? Aries at our core asks, who are you? Who am I? And how are you taking intentional, creative, aligned actions and steps to be in coherence with who you said you want to be and who you said you are? And this is the time, this is the week to surrender the delusions, embrace in divine timing, and recalibrate the steps that we need to move forward with courage before that bold rebirth. Like, this second week asks us to really get inside, get really quiet, and really reflect, recalibrate who we are, what our values are, how we actually communicate. And I feel like there's so many practical things that um we can start to be aware of. Like, what is our attachment? Like, how are we being attached in terms of relationship? Like, a lot of people are talking about attachment theory. What is your love language? And how are you communicating based on your love language? How are you receiving love based on that love language? What is your um like, what are the blocks? What are the limiting beliefs? And how are you actually still speaking based on these limiting beliefs? And how might we rewire that? Because we are being asked by the cosmos to recalibrate and die first, like go back into that primordial womb and void of being nothing, like totally dissolving again, because we need to clear the slate when we move forward, um, as the month ends and we step into that solar eclipse, because that solar eclipse is still going to be in Aries, so it just tells us that it's still going to be a review of the past 2 years, and obviously it's a review of the past 8 years, the past 160 years, because we have Neptune moving into Aries and it has a 160-year cycle. So we're clearing so much karmic garbage, which is Pisces also is this cosmic, we call it a cosmic toilet. So what is this cosmic garbage that or karmic garbage that we're all clearing at an individual level? And what does that mean for you?
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, this just feels like a lot. I just want to tune out for the entire March.
Oh gosh.
I just want to do the basics. I just want to do what I have to do to stay alive. And
Mm,
that's literally all I want to do. What would you say are the basics? What do you need to do through
gosh,
March
be
to stay
present.
alive?
Be present. And I feel like that's such an Aries question, right? Because Aries, ruled by Mars, is the primal response. It rules our limbic system. It's the primary brain. And for us to just be in that practical awareness of the present moment, that's 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 already 1,000%. Like wake up, feed yourself, get yourself nourished, get yourself regulated. What do you do, like moment to moment, to make sure that your body feels safe, that your body feels centered? That's all we can actually ask. How you can have your, like, how are you surviving? Like, what are the steps, what are the practical ways that you do every day to survive? Because that's what actually March is asking us. We need to survive before we can thrive. We need to survive the pressures of actually living in so many late stage isms, and like so many clearings and so many grief and rage that's just coming up to be processed and metabolized. So what are the practical daily habits that you can do for you to stay grounded and present and prioritize that?
Okay. I would like to add that you can just go spend some time with the elements. You know, if you're feeling overwhelmed and if you're feeling like it's just too much, like Virgo, lunar eclipse, a great time to spend time with Mama Earth and just be like, please
Mm-hmm.
take everything that I don't need to be carrying. You know, it's a supportive relationship. You know, we're helping
Mm,
her, but we're also allowing her to take what we just really don't need to be carrying because I think Mama Earth knows very well how to dispose of what's not necessary, but we don't know very well how to do that. So when we commune with her and we allow her to, you know, just take some of it off our chest, she knows how to recycle that into energy that actually feels better. So I don't think we should be feeling like, oh, I'm dumping this on the earth,
yeah.
especially if we're doing it intentionally. And especially with our work, we're also serving the earth. Now, if you're throwing trash on the earth when you're hanging out on with the earth, that's a different story. Okay. That's not intentional. That's rude. And she may not help you because you are not helping her. But if you're a kind human, go spend time with the earth. I'm just kidding. Go spend time with the earth anyway, but please don't litter. That's not very kind. This week, I feel like digestion, something that's always so big with me. Digestion's really going to be coming up to the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Discernment, again, which we've been
Mm-hmm.
saying month to month.
Mm-hmm.
And with this Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries, I think there is a big need to be patient with ourselves
Mm.
because we've gotten a taste of Aries. So we've gotten a taste of how fast it can go. And now we're going to feel the slingshot effect of being pulled back and like, wait, just wait, just wait. And the pullback may feel like, you know, a breaking open. And I think it's so important to allow ourselves to break open. I'm so sure I'm going to come back and listen to this and be like, wow, why did I say that? But I mean, the energy just kind of feels like that, you know, with Sun conjunct Saturn in Pisces, and then you have a lunar eclipse, and then you have Mercury stationing
Mm-hmm.
retrograde in Aries about to make its way back into Pisces, we may
Pisces.
feel really like aggressive about this internally.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, it's really an important time to also blow off some steam. You
Mm-hmm.
know, go work out. I forgot about how much I enjoyed going to the gym and how much it's like a playground to just pick up things, throw things down, you know, move things in different ways around my body. So find that thing that allows you to release, because I think with this team, it will be necessary to have a release.
God, absolutely.
So moving on to the next week, we have on the 18th, we have Sun conjunct North Node. This feels really supportive. And then on the 20th, we have Sun conjunct Neptune in Pisces. And the same day, we have Sun moving into Aries. And then
Mhm.
on the 23rd, we have Venus Cazimi, which means Venus is in the heart of the sun. This is going to be at 2 degrees 39 minutes. So a very young Aries sun.
Very sun, yeah.
And I'll just drop this in here before we go into the next week. But the day, 2 days after that, um, Sun conjunct Mercury in
Mm.
Aries. So we're having a lot of sun movement this week, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And Pisces, just having that Pisces stellium can be very emotional, can be very confusing, can be very like the impulse to distract ourselves, to disassociate, to numb out can be or or run and hide can be high, but also the potential for creativity, for spirituality, for like just intense love and compassion and empathy for your fellow human can be so high and great. And with someone who has very strong Neptune and Pisces affinity, I've been sitting with the wisdom of I don't know. And I think I'm called to share that. Like the wisdom of not knowing is so humbling because it asks you to surrender, but with discernment. Because I may not know, but also I know myself enough to trust that I am moving with grace in alignment with what I'm supposed to know when I know it. But right now, I don't know, and I don't know what I don't know until I know. And so there's just so much wisdom in sitting in surrender and trust versus just sitting in surrender and allowing the waves to take over you and be like, yeah, the vision that's coming in my mind is like you're allowing yourself to sink where what I'm the invitation that I'm trying to bring you on or invite you to is how can you hold space for surrender and trust and sit in the I don't know, but allow yourself to know enough, right? We have all these recalibrations and the I am part of our chart and the Aries part of our chart. Like, how can you know yourself enough so that even though you don't know the shit that's happening around, you can trust that you are moving in alignment and you're moving in grace because you know how you're wired to think, you know how you're wired to relate. And from that space, you can always communicate with compassion because you know yourself enough. And when you know yourself enough, you can make better boundaries. You can have better boundaries. And you can be compassionate with other people because you know how to be compassionate with yourself. And when you're aligned with such deep sense of worth and value, you can always be intentional even if you don't know. There is that innate sense of discernment. So like I wanna offer that.
I think something that we skipped through that we definitely should have talked about in the beginning of this episode is this is the first month that we have Mars direct again in Cancer. But everything that you just said kind of just encapsulates that Mars is direct in Cancer again. And so we have this extra water. And knowing that we have this extra water and we have more water coming up, are we gonna like I got your image and I imagine like someone
Yeah.
just in the sea being like, I'm
Drowning.
drowning. And it's like, okay, do you want to keep drowning or do you want to try to, move your arms? Do you want to try to flap your feet? Because you can save yourself. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can save yourself. And that's where the, like you're saying, like the trust in ourselves comes in, knowing that, we've had ourselves before, we got ourselves, like we
Yeah.
got us. And there's no reason that we don't got us. And if you feel like you don't got you when you're listening to this, with this Venus and Mercury and Aries, this is the time to make promises to
Yes.
yourself again. This is the time
Yes.
to remind yourself that you got you. Because you guys, let's break it down. Okay, very simple. What is Aries? Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. Aries is fire. Aries is where we see inspiration, empowerment. Aries is, trend setting. It's doing things that haven't been seen before. It's fire, it's rage, it's anger, it's warrior energy. Um, so Aries is all of this, but Aries is also the ego, and Aries is me, and Aries is choosing me. And so it's not about choosing ourselves to be selfish, but it's
Mm-hmm.
choosing ourselves to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Because if we're not
Mm-hmm.
taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of anything and anyone else, which is just like this age-old thing, which is you can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
And so while this energy is in Aries, it's a great idea to fill our cup. And maybe, maybe we feel it like it's tough because, again, with the planets moving back into Pisces, we are being forced to break open again. But maybe it's in the breaking open that we will be able to make deeper and more healing promises to ourselves. Because Pisces is, if we talked about Aries and all the energy that Aries has, what does Pisces have? Pisces has devotion. It's watery, it's emotional, it's romantic, it's God, it's
Mm-hmm.
universe, it's
Mm-hmm.
oneness, it's all one, it's energetic. And so just when we think about that dance between fire and water, it's actually so beautiful that instead
Yes.
of just running on over, we're getting a
Yes.
wait, let's just feel. Let's just feel. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to feel, let's create. And if you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to create, then numb out, fine. But you may miss out on the beauty that you can create. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that simple, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think we live our lives thinking that someone is going to tell us, no, this is not the way to live. But actually, no one's ever
No.
going to tell us that. It's just about the experience that we get is directly a result of what we put in.
Mm-hmm.
That's
That's
it.
so beautiful.
And if we're unhappy, it's our own fault.
Yes.
And if we're happy, it is our own doing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like how can we, oh my God, I love this time. I love this month because it just feels like a time to just claim that we're all God in our own right.
Ooh, I'm getting goosies. I love this month too. I mean, a lot of astrologers are actually talking about this month, how it's such a dynamic month. There's so many things going on. There's a stellium in Pisces. There's so much emotionality. It's big, it's intense. There's a lot going on. Yes. Yes.
But it's magic.
It is so magical. I mean, for Saturn, the North Node, Neptune, Venus, Mercury, they're all meeting together in Pisces at the critical degrees of Pisces. This is so beautiful. This is so, so beautiful. And if we learn how to reframe, um, I guess an invitation to like learn everything, like learn reframing tools, learn cognitive behavioral tools, somatic therapy, anything that can keep you in the present moment and make you trust and believe that everything that is happening is beautiful and is happening for us. That it can be both destructive and beautiful. It can be both sad and hopeless, but also beautiful. Like it is magic, right? And the grass is always greener where we water it. And so, how can we believe that, well, actually, where I'm standing, the grass is greener and the grass is just always greener? And move from that space because, oh my gosh, it's such a magical, amazing time to be alive, to actually be at the forefront of a turning, to be, to have this creative ability, not just responsibility, but like, right? Creative response ability to change, to create, to move, to yeah, to move in ways that actually inspire generations or inspire a new generation to like just to start again, to break open. It's just it's so exciting. I'm so
I also find it so interesting that Mars, which is the planet of action and moving forward and, drive, is direct in water,
mm,
but the heart, like boundaries, um, beauty, it's all like it's turned internal, right? So,
mm,
yes, the action part is like, okay, fine, you can move, but what are you moving with? Because
mm,
the heart is like turned inward and the mind is turned inward. So maybe it's not really moving at all, but maybe it's becoming more clear about the emotional landscape that we're forcing ourselves to live in. And having a look at those emotional landscapes are what will help us set clearer boundaries and clearer ways to express ourselves. So that once these two are direct, once April comes around, maybe then it's a smarter time to kind of start pressing gas. Not
yes,
so strong, but just start.
yes, 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 yes.
All the yeses. Okay,
Oh
so that
yes.
was the third week. So for the fourth week, here's what's up.
Whew. Yep. Let me just brace myself.
We have Mercury Cazimi, which means Sun is in the heart of Mercury retrograde at 4 degrees 24 minutes. And then
Mhm.
on the 27th, AstroSeek said that Lilith moves into Scorpio.
Scorpio, yeah.
But this is Lilith, the point in the sky, because I know that the asteroid Lilith is in Aquarius.
Mhm.
So this is interesting because Lilith point in the sky is squaring Lilith. Um,
The
in
asteroid.
Aquarius, yeah.
Mm.
I want to know what you think about that. And then on the 27th, we also have Venus retrograding back into Pisces. So we have the shift of fire to water. And we have, of course, when Venus retrogrades into Pisces, Venus is going to meet Neptune at the last degree of Pisces. And then on the 29th, we have the Aries solar eclipse at 8 degrees, 59 minutes.
Mm.
This Aries solar eclipse is a completion. And then on the 30th, we have Mercury moving back into Pisces, and then Mercury making that same conjunction that Venus just made with Neptune.
Mhm.
And then Neptune moves into Aries as a little glimpse.
Okay, so let's start with Black Moon Lilith, the point. Black Moon Lilith, the point means the moon in perigee, meaning the moon at its in farthest from Earth in its monthly orbit. So it only that Black Moon Lilith point shows us the dark side of the feminine, where if moon is our feminine, our mothering nature, how we feel safe and secure, Black Moon Lilith as the perigee point is that shadow part, like the dark feminine, where it's mostly repressed, but it's there, it's wild, it's living within us. And for it to be in Scorpio, like this intense passionate sign, and it's squaring the asteroid Lilith in Aquarius, I feel like it even ramps up all these planets sextiling Pluto. And we touched up on that as we started this episode. There is a big calling, and we haven't even touched up on the asteroids. I mean, Juno's in Sagittarius. Juno just finished its journey in Scorpio. Now it's in Sagittarius, and then we have Venus retrograding in Aries. So essentially, Juno is this goddess that teaches us that to be um to be in sacred relationship doesn't mean we are martyrs, like that's done. It's about being wise, it's about being fair, it's about standing up for our integrity, our values, and our self-worth again. And it's about just really being in sacred relationship with ourselves first, so that we know what fair contracts, bonds, and agreements are with other people. We need to be aware of what justice, fair, and standing in integrity means for us. That is what Juno is teaching us. And Juno, being in a fire sign, is now teaching us how to explore, like, explore different ways to actually pursue justice, to pursue fairness, while Lilith in Scorpio is revisiting the many parts of the dark psyche, like deeper psychological content, where we may still be stuck in ways where we allow ourselves to be repressed or suppressed by the patriarchy. And how can we actually take ownership of our power first in a loving, compassionate way, so that when we rage against the machine, we do it in a compassionate, aligned, creative way? Because the feminine is, like, the dark feminine doesn't always have to be Kali destructive. It is essential because it teaches us the medicine of the void, of allowing ourselves to be in that liminal cocoon stage, to dissolve the falsities. And Black Moon Lilith is allowing all these repressed and suppressed emotions out into the ether with that square to asteroid Lilith, because it seeks expression. It finally seeks, again, emotional metabolism, right? Mars and Cancer. It's asking us to take bold responsibility for these emotions so that we can be more resilient, so that we can be more emotionally mature, so that we can repair relationships that are more aligned with justice and fairness, like Juno and Sagittarius. I'm bunching up all these movements and asteroids that are actually already dancing with each other. I mean, we're just focusing on the major planets, but all of these are building up. And with Neptune moving into Aries, we are working in like long-term solutions, and we're creating new exciting pathways in the realm of education, in the realm of finance, and in all societal long-standing institutions. We're creating new pathways, and for us to create new pathways, we need to know ourselves on a deeper psychological level, like really meet ourselves from all the shit that we allowed ourselves, we allowed the patriarchy and whoever outsourced thing um dictate what fairness is supposed to be, what courage looks like, what integrity looks like, what responsibility looks like. these are these are huge things, because we are evolving humanity. And my invitation is to embrace all this change with unconditional love, while remaining grounded in self-worth and discernment. God, so many things.
It's a lot. I mean, what do you have to say about the solar eclipse in Aries?
um I think this is
It was already bunched in there.
yeah, I think it was already bunched in there because the the solar eclipse is a closing of the north node in Aries before we actually move into the north node in Pisces. And so all this is an invitation to cultivate self-agency, which is what Aries is really all about, like the individuation process and that self-agency. And for the soul, like the solar, the ego consciousness, to be in this huge um moment where, okay, so eclipses actually aren't major bodies. That's why they're potentialities. And it takes us like 6 months to 18 months, 18 years. Like it puts us in a cycle for us to complete it. So although we're going to have a solar eclipse in Aries this month, it's a potential seed that we're going to see happen for the next 6 months. And it has a lot to do with self agency, like all these things that we're talking about. Like, what is fairness for you? How do you define all these things for you? Because you are going to you're going to be the responsible one to see all these potentialities taking shape. And it's also wrapping up the 18-month nodal journey of that Aries and Libra eclipse. But I feel like because there's still a lot of Neptune, like Pisces energy, it's bringing us like we're crossing a threshold. We're walking into a portal of a new cycle and a new turning because we have that eclipse and then we have Neptune moving into Aries. So there's so many signals of something new, like new beginnings, as much as endings. So we're ending and we're beginning, but I feel like the call here is to stress the point where let's close what needs closing so that when we begin, we're actually beginning from this self-aware conscious space, which is like the solar consciousness again. We know our ego identities, and that ego identity is not framed nor related nor attached to the suppressed repressed side of us. We are stepping boldly into new frontiers because we're ready to create new pathways, not just for ourselves but for humanity.
I feel like we've been talking a lot about this ending and beginning and ending and beginning. And I think March is when we're actually starting to see it. If we haven't
Mhm.
been seeing it yet, like we're
Mhm.
starting to see the endings and we're starting to see the beginnings. And it's really crazy how the day after the solar eclipse, Neptune moves into Aries, and Neptune stays there until October 26th. So that's a good stretch of time, you know. We have about what, 7 months with experiencing what Neptune and Aries feels like before we get the proper shift next year. And this is just one of the first big shifts of the month, isn't of the
Uh-huh,
year,
of the
isn't it?
year. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first big shifts of the year, and it's such a big planet, and it's a planet that, has been in its home sign for the last while, and now it's gonna
13 years. Yeah.
13 years. That's a lot of years, and now it's gonna dip into fire
Mm-hmm.
from being so comfortable in
Mm-hmm.
water
Mm-hmm.
for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, also just the fact that this is happening the day after the solar eclipse, I feel like it's a wild card. The way we enter it, the way we program ourselves entering it is also the way that it will play out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like it could look like very warrior, like I'm not allowing anyone past my walls and I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. But it can also look like, wow, I'm so aware of my power and I'm so aware of the incredible things that I can do with it for the good of the planet. Let me start doing it. Like Neptune, right? I mean, Neptune is dreams and illusions, and I also kind of see Neptune as like it can be a gift. It can be the gift that we give to the world. It can be the telepathic magic that we share with the world. And with Neptune moving into Aries, it's like we're finally taking everything that was seeded the last time that Neptune was in Aries, and that was how many years ago you said?
163.
A
160,
hundred.
163.
So over 100 years ago, so this has already been brewing on planet Earth when we entered.
164.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Um, that's a lot of years. So if you can even wrap your head around that, right? The last time Neptune was in Aries, where it's gonna be on the 30th of March, was 164
164
years ago.
years.
So we can't only think about Neptune, the time that we're born and how that's playing out. We have to notice that there were all of these things that were being seeded and that were being steeped and that were already
Mm-hmm.
created before we
Mm-hmm.
entered planet Earth. And this is already the energy that's been playing out. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what I want to say actually, and what's coming to me as I say this is a great time to take Neptune as our own. Because the last time Neptune was in Aries, we weren't on planet Earth. And
Mm-hmm.
see, so we had a say on how it played out, but we didn't have a say on how it began.
Mm-hmm.
So I think each one of us needs to dip so deeply, like especially with Neptune moving back into Pisces, into our energetics, into our intentions, into what do we want to anchor into planet Earth, because it's no longer about us. It is about for the next 160, whatever, maybe 170 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's on us. It's on us that are alive right now to see this Neptune in Aries in a way that like our grandchildren's children will be experiencing the seeds that we plant right now with Neptune and Aries. I sound crazy, but you guys, this is huge. So this is
It's
really
huge.
hard to put into words.
It is. It's very Neptunian. And I love how you're saying make Neptune our own. Because for those who were born 1980, like early 1980s to um probably 1990s, they have Neptune and Capricorn. And so they're gonna experience their Neptune square. Um, so Neptune squares are can be confusing, can be disillusioning, but it's exactly because we are being invited to take responsibility. Like Neptune and Capricorn are the that's the generation who are here to be spiritual leaders. And like, don't get me wrong, spiritual leader is big. It's just having your own sense of understanding what spirituality means separate from religion, and have a deeper sense of connection to divinity or something that is bigger than you, whatever that means for you, divine, God, universe, Pachamama, Gaia, Buddha, whatever divine means for you, like be devoted, be disciplined, and have like trust that the water will carry you. You don't always have to paddle, but when you surrender, when you take your fullest exhale, trust that the waters will carry you.
I love that. I think that's a great note to end on. And something that I want to say is we talk a lot about Saturn returns, but I think it would be so cool to do an episode with you of other
Neptune
things,
square. Yeah,
Neptune
because I'm also
squares,
so middle
and
of everything. I'm in my Pluto square. I'm in my Neptune square.
so,
God.
like, what are the other things actually that we can look at after our Saturn return? Because that's the first time we get a, oh my God, the planets actually have a say. What are the
Yeah,
other things that have a say? I think it would be so cool to do an episode about that.
I
So,
would be super down.
coming
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we did a great job wrapping this up pretty quick because we went week by week. Let us know how you feel about this week by week format. Maybe we can do this moving forward so it just doesn't feel so wordy
Overwhelming. Yeah.
wordy and overwhelming. This way, it's more just like this is kind of the overview of the week. These are the energetics that are going to be coming at you. You can choose how you want to approach it. And I think at the end of the day, like we always say, like our purpose is just to make the astrology more accessible, not to give you too many words, not to make it overwhelming. So if this is great, like if this is better, let us know. And great, we'll stick to this. Okay, Thea, closing up, what do you think are three words about March?
Hmm. Intentionality. Um, self-agency and creative responsibility.
Love. Okay, mine are divinity,
Ooh,
authority,
I love it.
and radical creativity.
But of course, spoken like a true artist.
But of course, I mean, it's time, you guys. If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling constricted, if you're feeling just like out of sorts, make something and share it and let people see you for the thing that you make because that I mean, we see ourselves when we make things, but when we see people see us and then we get to see the way people see us, I think that's also very powerful because that also reminds us that we have a say in the way the world turns out. Like we have a say. And when we watch media and when we get stuck in patterns, we think we don't have a say. And I do want to put out a disclaimer that Thea and I are both from the Philippines. We're recording this in the Philippines, so everything we say has nothing to do with any politics happening in any other part
No.
of the world. We try our best not to go deep into politics,
No.
and we just try to keep it like heart centric and practical in a way that we can
Mhm.
all just digest and use the information. So thank you, Thea. Do you have anything coming up that you want to share about?
I do. So I am finishing up a solar wheel guide and a retrograde rhythms guide where I really go through one by one all the retrogrades. I explain what shadow is, what they can do. I blend cognitive behavioral therapy, neuroscience, and somatic embodiment tips for each retrograde. So, obviously, starting with Mercury and Venus. So, inviting you guys to check that out. I'll share the link with Karina so she can share it in the show notes. And I also have a solar wheel guide where it takes us through the 8 gates or the solar wheels. These are just the equinoxes and the solstices and the quarter days. And it teaches you how to, again, apply neuroscience, somatic embodiment, and CBT, like all the things that I've been learning the past 4 years since I quit corporate. I've been creative, like Karina said, right? Because what to do with all this stuff, but to alchemize it and transmute it and create something useful and valuable for everyone. So the big intention is just really to help you align with the cycles and the rhythms, not to fear the retrogrades, but actually use it as a cosmic portal to recalibrate, align, and step into more flow. And so I'm excited to get it out there.
That sounds so beautiful. And I think it's so important because I think it's important to recognize retrogrades as not things that are
Yes.
stopping us from getting to where we want to go,
Yes.
but instead it's just really a time to reflect deeply within
Yeah.
ourselves. And we get that access. That's the best part. But we're distracted by everyone saying and thinking like, oh, Mercury retrograde, everything's going to shit.
Yeah,
But
no,
if we
yeah.
get out of that narrative and if we sit with our minds and if we have questions, like you're saying, like if we have these prompts, if we have these things to think about, it actually makes the retrograde so much more juicy. So yeah, share that with me. I'll make sure to put it in the link. I'm excited for everything that you're creating because you are a wealth of knowledge. And every
Thank
time I
you.
talk to you, I learn so much. And I'm sure that everyone that's been listening to these are also learning so much from you. So thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm so happy to have you here for another month in the books.
I know. Thank you so much for having me here again this month. And I hope this new format is more digestible. And yeah, let us know. I hope you can let Karina know if this works for you better.